Hey everybody, so I saw the Super Best Friends Fight Purple Homer Simpson Part 2, so I'm here to tell you what I think of it. In all seriousness though, Avengers Endgame is finally here, and everyone and their grandma's sister-in-law is seeing it. It's already made over $1 billion at the box office, and no one can spoil anything about it unless they want to get called out, so my spoiler-free review is the Avengers find something out, stuff happens, and then they resolve a problem. There's my review. Thanks for watching. Bye. No, but I will give you a spoiler warning if I want to go into spoilers, which I may or may not do. So, Endgame picks up after the devastating events of Infinity War, where Thanos wiped out half the universe, and the remaining Avengers are desperately scrambling to find a solution to the problem and hopefully make things right. And I'll tell you something, the marketing for this movie is genius in and of itself because pretty much all the trailer and promo shots are from the first act. So legitimately after the 45-minute mark of this movie I had no idea what was coming other than a couple things that I kind of looked into about things they were wearing, but there's nothing that's super obvious about where the plot is going from the marketing material. That being said, when it comes to movies like this that are highly anticipated by the majority of moviegoers, I try to remove myself from the hype train as much as I possibly can, even though it might be hard since I've literally been watching these movies for half of my life, and it's all been leading up to this very moment. So just consider that. One thing that I admired about this movie was the fact that the first act carried that somber tone that Infinity War left on for longer than I was expecting. Not always, but for the majority of it, I really enjoyed how kind of bleak the first act is, and then it gradually gets into some of the things you were expecting in a 3-hour superhero epic. After that first act stops, the rest of it is really fun fan service to the people who have been watching these movies from the beginning. So if you're one of those people, you've probably already seen it, but there's so much to chew on for the fan base. Then when it comes to the third act, that is legitimately amazing. It's one of the craziest finales I've ever seen in a movie, and it's pretty much everything that I think the height of a blockbuster movie should be. There was one particular moment in the finale, and you probably know what I'm talking about if you've already seen it, where my jaw was basically on the floor. It's one of those moments that I'm never gonna forget seeing in a theater. And while that's all well and good, I have to admit that this is by no means a perfect movie, and I do have a few issues with it, some of which go into spoiler territory, but I'll just warn you when I get into those. My first issue is kind of with the pacing. It's not bad by any stretch, but Infinity War was definitely a more well-paced movie, and I prefer Infinity War out of these two. Most of that stuff's in the first act, though. Once the second act rolls around, it becomes a much more well-woven story, even if there are a lot of things that you can nitpick in that little area. I still really enjoyed those parts compared to the pacing in the first act. Something else that happened in the first act were that sometimes even sprinkled throughout the overall somber tone, it was weirdly comedic. I understand that comedy relief is a popular thing to do in darker moments in a big blockbuster like this, but some of the jokes were just, they straight up felt like they were out of a different movie, and not to mention there's a few of them that just made me want to groan. Alright, so for the rest of the review I'm going to go into spoiler territory, so if you don't want any spoilers for whatever reason, just skip to this timestamp. There's your warning. Alright, 3, 2, 1, spoilers. So a little problem I had with the finale was how they showed the Infinity Gauntlet working. Like, when Hulk tries to put the Infinity Gauntlet on, it fries half his body, and like he can't fully do it without severe harm to himself. But when Iron Man puts it on, snaps his fingers, and then dies, he didn't appear to have much of a struggle at all to put it on. And that should have been a really emotionally powerful moment, and it still kind of was. I mean, how long has that character been on screen? 11 years? But it could have been a lot more impactful, to me at least, if they had somewhat changed how the Infinity Gauntlet works when you put it on. Another little grievance that I had in the finale was when the shot where all the female heroes come in. I was really disappointed that they didn't put Black Widow in there. I was really happy with the scene where she dies because it was like a tooth and nail fight over who would get to throw themselves off the cliff and sacrifice themselves, which I thought was a really fresh way of doing that. But I feel like it should have been Hawkeye, to be honest. So don't kill me, Hawkeye fanboys, if you're out there. But Black Widow was the first real female hero in the MCU when you think about it, and what, she just doesn't get to be included in that big epic shot. Like, I feel like that was a letdown for this movie is supposed to be just fan service galore, but they really missed out on that one, I think. To add to the comedy thing that I was talking about earlier, all I really need to say is the rest of the first act is pretty somber, but amongst that, you have Dr. Hulk taking a selfie with kids and dabbing, and Fat Thor playing Fortnite. So yeah, those two things felt really out of left field. But now let's talk about the very best moments in the film. Of course, every single character that's ever had a power of any kind in the MCU coming in and fighting Thanos' army was amazing to see, and the Avengers Assemble line was yes. And then I think most people agree that the Cap hoisting Mjolnir scene was just jaw on the floor. And really, that's the height, I think, of building a cinematic universe for 11 years and doing it consistently. So I really have to give props to all the writers who have worked on these movies for at least not completely failing to make it feel like a cohesive universe that they created. I just have to say that I really enjoy these MCU movies for what they are, but I don't think they're like masterpieces or anything like a lot of people seem to for some reason. Like, it's really good popcorn entertainment, but not much more than that. There's only a handful of movies in the MCU that I think go above that and are legitimately great films. I'd say Endgame is right near that point, but it doesn't quite get over that mark. I should also mention that there's quite a bit I didn't talk about that you can really nitpick about this movie and the effects that it might have, but I'm not going to be that guy. I don't want to say, you have to think this, this, and this because I noticed something, but just go in and have your experience. So yeah, on the whole, I think Avengers Endgame was a satisfying conclusion to an era of cinema that hasn't really been replicated in the past. When you think about it, that's what makes the MCU something special. It's something that's never really been done before, and I have to give it up for that. So I'm going to give Avengers Endgame a 7.8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. Alright, so that's the review. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'm going to try to start uploading videos more frequently. That every time I say that, I take like 4 months off, but let's just see. Let's just see what happens. Anyway, thank you and have a great day.